Hey guys, in this video we're going to start 8C.4. It's the last target for target C. Our objective is I can find the area of a sector by setting up a proportion comparing the sector to the area of a circle. So what is a sector? A sector is the space between a central angle and an arc. So we're going to say the space inside the central angle. Remember, a central angle uses the center to create its angle. So it's between two radii. Central angle and the arc. So if we look here at the sector, we see that we have a radius, and a radius, so two of them, you say radii, creates this central angle. Our sector is all this shaded region here until we get to that arc, right? So all of this is shaded in. We're trying to find the area of that. Kind of looks like a pizza slice. So if you want to like put, over here on the side, kind of looks like a piece of pizza. Right, so you're trying to find the area of that little slice of pizza. The formula we're going to be using is right here. We have the arc measure. So sometimes that's going to be in degree mode. If it's in degree mode, then you're going to divide by 360. If it's in radian mode, meaning our central angle there has a pi in it, you could use 2 pi. All right, our area, you find the area of a circle, which would be this formula of pi r squared, where our r is representing the radius. So I'm going to kind of scroll up here so we can see these first couple examples, keeping that formula up there at the top. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing is we need to find that arc measure. So arc measure is right here. That's going to be 60 degrees. We're going to divide that by 360 because this is going to equal, or it's in degree mode, so we're going to divide by degrees. Then we're going to multiply it by pi. Our radius is going to be 10. And we can't forget to square that. All right, so if you are, you have your calculator, you're more than welcome to kind of divide everything out. I will show you how to do just one, and then the rest of them I'm just going to assume that you guys know how to put in your calculator. So I like to do it in steps. And I'm going to take my 60 and divide it by 360, and that's going to give me 1/6. And then I have pi times 10 squared. So if you want to do 10 squared or you want to do 10 times 10, either way it gives you 100. So times 100, and I cannot forget to bring down my pi because I did not multiply that in. Once you have that 100, technically what you can do is you can multiply it by your 1/6. I like to put that in parentheses just so it knows that 1/6 is a whole fraction I'm trying to divide it by. And I get 50 over 3. So 50 over 3. Again, didn't do anything with that pi, so that gets tagged along. Now, it doesn't tell me to leave my answer in terms of pi. So if you want to divide it out and multiply it with pi, you can. Either answer would be correct. So you could either say 50 over 3 pi. Since this is area is always units squared. All right? So you could leave it like that. If you want to multiply it, I can show you how you multiply it. If you have that 50 over 3, you can just multiply it by pi. And then you get about 52.36. You could also round it if you'd like. Right, we can say this is 52.36 inches squared. Right, that's okay as well. Either one of these answers is okay because it did not tell us to leave it in terms of pi. All right, let's try the other one. So example number 2, still finding the area of a sector. So our sector is going to be that same formula. If we notice, our arc measure, though, is in radian mode. So our arc measure is this 3 pi over 2. And we want to divide that all by, and this time it's not in degree mode, it's in radian mode. So we're going to use 2 pi times pi r squared. So pi times our radius, which was 4, and we're going to square that. Now that whole 3 pi over 2 divided by 2 pi, yes, you can put that in your calculator. If you put it in your calculator, please make sure you put whatever's in the numerator in parentheses and whatever's in the denominator in parentheses. But if you do it by hand, it's really nice because there's a lot of things that divide each other out. For example, this pi divides out the pi in the numerator, and then this 2 in the denominator actually multiplies with the denominator of, you know, that 2 pi that we see there. So technically this would be 3 over 4. But again, you can plug it all in your calculator and it will simplify it, and it will also give you 3/4. If you put it in your calculator and you did not get 3/4, I would definitely suggest you, pause the video, come up and ask us so that you can figure out what you're doing wrong. But either way, you can do it by hand. It's really easy. Again, this 4, I got it by multiplying 2 times 2. All right, moving along, I bring my pi down. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. So if I have that 3/4 times 16 times pi, if I have 3/4, I'm going to multiply that by 16, and that's going to give me 12. Can't forget my pi though, because that is, I haven't done anything with it. And these were measured in centimeters, so I'm going to say centimeters squared. If you wanted to get a more exact answer, because it did not tell you to leave it in terms of pi, which means multiply pi in it, this would give us about 37.7 centimeters squared. So either one of these answers would be acceptable. The directions did not tell us to leave it in terms of pi. When we get to the next couple of examples, it does tell us how it wants us to leave our answers. Alright, so looking at example 3, it says a round pizza. So now we have a pizza, so I'm going to kind of draw as I read. I have my pizza here, and it says it has a diameter of 12 inches. So those 2 apostrophes, this means inch, when you see those little apostrophes. So what that means is through my center, if I draw a line completely through, this is 12 inches long. It's also cut into 8 congruent slices. So 8 congruent slices means basically have 4 on each side. So those are hopefully all congruent, somewhat congruent slices. We see that this obviously is our diameter still. So those would be 4 slices. What is the area of 1 slice? So I'm only trying to find the area of just 1 slice of pizza here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that 1 slice, right? And this is again the area of our sector. So our sector area is going to equal 1 slice, right? Because it's only 1 slice out of how many slices? Well, instead of doing like, an angle over 360, we have 1 slice out of how many total slices there are, which would be 8. We're going to still multiply though by our area formula, which is pi r squared. Pi times our radius, and now this is where we have to be careful because what they gave us was our diameter, right? This was diameter of 12. We want radius. So what we have to do is we have to take that 12 and we have to cut that in half to give us 6 because the distance of the radius is actually 6. So that is what I'm going to use. Put it in green. And then square it. Alright, so this is going to equal, still my sector here. That's going to equal 1/8 times 6 squared is 36. Don't forget to bring down my pi. 1/8 times 36 as a fraction is about 9 pi over 2 inches squared. And I'm going to leave that as my answer because it tells me to leave it in terms of pi. So again, biggest thing is remembering that however many slices it's asking you to look for, 1 slice is going to be the number that you have on the top of that fraction instead of having a degree or something in radian mode. The number that goes at the bottom is going to be how many slices there actually are in total. So that's the biggest thing. You just have to be careful when you're looking at these examples. Otherwise, everything is exactly the same. All right, let's move on to the next example. It's another pizza where we have circle. This time our diameter is 16, which would mean that if my diameter is 16, my radius is half of that, which is 8. Only because I know we're going to need that later. This is cut into 3 congruent pieces. So 3 times 6, that means there's 3 on each half. I like to draw this picture. It doesn't ask us to draw a picture, but I think it helps make everything make a little bit more sense. What is the area of 1 slice? So again, we're going to take that 1 slice and we are going to put that at the top of our fraction. How many slices in total did we have? 6 times pi times our radius, which we solved was 8, and we need to square it. So 1/6 times 8 squared is 64. Don't forget my pi. Simplifying 1/6 times 64 is going to give me 32 pi over 3. Don't forget my units, and they are squared because we are dealing with area. All right, last example here. We have a scenario that says in the diagram below, AC and AD are arcs of a circle with centers at O. So all it told us was that we have this arc and we have this arc, and they both are at center O. The radius of OA is 10. I'm going to kind of change my colors here. And it told us that OA is our radius and it is 10 centimeters long. So from O to A, this is 10. From O to B is 16 centimeters. So from O to B, this is 16. We'll find the shaded region. So what we know is that we kind of have to find the area of both sectors and subtract the part that we don't want. So what we are actually going to do in order to find the shaded region is the shaded region, so shaded area, is actually going to equal, I'm going to call this part, I'm going to number them. So I'm going to say that this is sector 1 and this one's sector 2. So we actually are going to say sector 2, because that's my shaded region. I want to subtract sector 1 because I don't want that part because that part's not shaded. I'm only trying to find the shaded part, but the only way I can do that is if I find the region of the whole thing and then subtract the part that is still section 1 because that part is not shaded. So kind of doing this in some steps. I'm going to scroll this down so we have a little bit more room to work with. We basically have to do this formula for a sector 2 times. So looking at sector 2, what we have to do is we have to look at the angle. Well, our angle was 95 degrees. So that's going to be 95. And again, I'm only looking at sector 2. So 95 divided by 360, because these were both in degree mode. I'm going to multiply that by pi r squared. Now the radius of the big sector was the whole distance from O to B. O to B is in blue, and that's what we said was 16. So this is 16 squared. All right? So this is the sector for that shaded region, right? I'm going to go ahead and write the formula for the next one, just so we can have them both going at the same time. The sector for the region 1 that's not shaded, same formula, same angle there, right? So 95 degrees divided by 360 degrees times pi r squared. Our radius is what's in red from O to A, and that's 10. Don't forget to square it. And that's my area for sector 1. So now we simplify. So 95 over 360 is going to be 19 over 72. 16 squared is 256. 256. Don't forget to bring down my pi. Again, this is still all part of sector 1. I'm going to just go ahead and simplify this even more. If I multiply 19 over 72 times 256, I'm going to leave it in terms of pi just for right now. That gives me 608. Oh. I'm not sure what's going on here. 608 divided by 9. Pi. So again, this is the area for that shaded region. I still need to subtract the region that's not shaded. So I'm going to simplify the other sector. So again, 95 over 360 is the same as the other fraction. So it's going to be 19 over 72 times pi r squared. Pi r squared, our radius was 10, so 10 squared is 100 pi. When I multiply 19 over 72 times 100, I'm going to get 475 pi over 18. Alright, now we have two options. If you'd like to substitute each of these into your calculator and subtract them, you can. If you want to find a rough estimate of each of them and subtract them, you can. Does not matter. So in our calculator, parentheses are your best friend. You're going to do 608 pi divided by 9. Oop, I put 6 divided by 9. Tab out of that parentheses minus 475 pi divided by 18. If you click enter, you do get that simplified answer all ready to go as 129.329. That would be our final answer here. So that was 129.329 centimeters squared. If you wanted to simplify each of them, 608 pi over 9 is about 212.232. If you would have simplified it earlier, again, you do not have to. 475 over 18 pi is about 82.903. And if you subtract those, you do get that same answer. So either one is correct. Again, it really is all up to you and how much you want to break it down and how much you use your calculator. All right, that brings us to the end of this activity. After this activity, there is a BC quiz review. So please make sure that you work on that BC quiz before you move on to A. Good luck.